Hi, this is my behind the scenes channel. My name is Nancy Gurish and I'm from Your Health and Tech Friend magazine. And I've incorporated videos into my website in order to bring a face into my web magazine. This is my behind the scenes channel. It's a vlog channel and I've posted several times to this channel. It's got a handful of viewers. It's got about 26 subscribers, which is really good. It's a good beginning. I'd like to post every Wednesday at noon. Let's see how I can do that. Now, my title of this video is My Life Doesn't Make Sense. Nothing about my life has ever made sense, and I want to know why. My life is full of inconsistencies. What is consistent in my life is inconsistency, and the fact that I am continuously, obsessively happy. Even though I have complaints and I cry and I whine a lot, I happen to be very happy. And the people that I'm most comfortable with are strangers. Why is that? What is it that's going on? Why can I build a website magazine, teach myself to code in HTML and PHP scripting languages, learn how to make videos, edit them, upload them, learn how to run a computer, because it takes a whole lot of, what I do takes a lot of internet experience and usage and troubleshooting with computers and things. I use 5 laptops and desktops and things, and it just doesn't make sense that I should know how to do this stuff. My educational level is high school that I just muddled through, and a handful of successful credits from a community college. And then I went on to a life of drunkenness, literal drunkenness. I was an alcoholic. I became a regular drinker alcoholically for 15 years. Worked in an office because I had the ability to type. So I got good jobs because back in the 80s, you could type. If you could type, you could get a job. My life is full of inconsistencies. And then at 49 years old, I start beauty college. I become a cosmetologist, because I used some common sense, and I said, what am I going to be doing in a year from now anyway? So I successfully completed cosmetology school part-time. And then I get this idea. I get a computer in 2006 and I devour it. I can take it apart physically and put it back together. I can disable the software and I can get it going again. I have this brain that it just can work that way. Why? And then I understand the behavior of the body. I start to understand anatomy and the physiology of it. And my main YouTube channel is about staying healthy through natural means. That's a catchphrase for saying I can understand how the body works. It's like, why? Why does this stuff work? One time my husband was rewiring our bathroom in our old house, and I understood how a 3-way switch worked. And I was able to help him, to tell him, I don't know why this works this way, but you have to wire this wall switch in order to get this light to work off of this light switch. I could make sense of the electrical routing of it, and I don't know why. If you ever watched the old show Taxi, there was somebody on there who was like a drug user type of person, a person who was like a, what do they call them? I don't remember the name for him. They should have had no common sense. His name was Jim. And yes, if you asked him what the population, the statistics of the population in Wisconsin that were employed as opposed to the ones that were not unemployed, he could give you the answer like that. He knew all these things. They'd call it useless minutia. He would just have the answer to it. Well, when I was growing up, the thing has to do with my upbringing. I'm beginning to be able to connect the dots of how I work and why I work and what makes sense. And my life is beginning to make a turnaround. I'm becoming successful at something that doesn't make any sense. I have 4 YouTube channels, a website magazine, and this is making sense. And it's beginning to make sense monetarily. I've been running a business. I built a business. I became a LLC. I've done my taxes for 2 years straight on the business, let alone I do the household taxes. Why does this make sense when I don't have any education? It was because when I did a video on this already, and I'll link it in the description eventually for anybody who's interested in this, there's going to be more and more kids like me that are being raised without any upbringing, no formal bringing up. I was just I was given birth to, and I was brought into a household in the period of time when things could not have been more crazy in the universe. It was the 1960s, in a household where the 1960s happening just took place in my house. It busted up the whole household like it should, and like it did for many, many people. And more kids are being raised up like this. I was not brought up in any specific structured way because everybody in the house that was older than me, and they all took off and started their own lives, and it left me there. Well, what I was left with was books, and I read them. I devoured books like crazy. I had ADD, I had OCD, and all that stuff, but it hadn't all come into play yet before the age of like 6. And I started to read. I started to devour the books, and the books that were available to me, it was my mom's small library that was up off of my bedroom, and there were anatomy and physiology books there. She had classical books, some of the classics, and she had poetry books. She was a very, very, very well-educated person and very intelligent. She had a good library of books, and she had a formal education, and I just started to read these books. And then I was reading the books of the kids above me that had their school books at home. I started to read their biology books while I was still in before junior high. In elementary school, I was just reading books like crazy, ravenously, and my vocabulary got huge. It was very, very big, and through the years, I started to walk away from that vocabulary. And there was a reason that I deliberately left the vocabulary behind that I'll talk about in another video. But that education has stayed with me, and the vocabulary is slowly coming back into my brain because I'm starting to read, and I'm starting to use it and utilize it. I'm starting to write a whole lot. I wrote a lot as a kid. Also, I wanted to be a writer at a very young age. And they say that if you want to be anything, whatever your first aspiration is, you will probably eventually find yourself coming to that. And I have. Through the years, I've done many things. I've had many different jobs in many different areas, part-time jobs. I've worked in fast food. These things have helped to make my life and my personality be very well-rounded, which is great. It's been a wonderful, successful thing because it's contributed to my success by giving me, I've had influences from many other people. It's like I've had their seasoning and their flavor incubated into my life. Would that be the word? Instilled into, it's part of me. They become a part of me. Who I am is this little kid. That little kid that never had I asked one of my bosses, he was a scientist he was a world-renowned scientist. I asked him, why do people, I'll cry sometimes when I talk about things. I'm trying not to. Why do people rake their leaves? Why do you rake leaves anyway? I wanted to know what the purpose of that. He told me because the grass would die if you didn't get the leaves off every winter. You know, I had simple things like that I don't get. Common sense doesn't come easy. Common sense isn't so common if you look at the world. And I've never been afraid of strangers because nobody ever taught me. I never learned the basic things, which has worked in my favor. And that's why I can look at you, not being raised with video cameras in my house. They really didn't exist. In the 1960s, one of my uncles had a video camera. So there's a video, one or two of me somewhere when I was growing up, and a family relative, friend of the family, had a video camera at a wedding where I was getting very drunk and dancing and making a fool of myself when I was about 15. You know, so I wasn't raised on video cameras, but I'm very comfortable with strangers. I spent my life with strangers. When I was drinking, my best friends were the people in the bar, you know. And it wasn't healthy, but you know what? It made me, I have experiences that are working in my favor these days. I'm sober since February 22nd of 1989, and that was when my life began, and that was when I was able to begin to have things become successful. Everything when you drink never becomes as much of a success as when you get rid of all that stuff and then you have yourself. Then you can develop the things that you want to be or do. Well, if you're struggling with anything and you use anything to help to get through life, you need to get rid of those things, and then your life can begin to become a success. And I'm an example of that. And with that, I'm going to say peace, buttercups. See you next Wednesday at noon here behind the scenes.